So, what happens in a data science project? Well, to put this into perspective, we'll first have a brief discussion on what is data science. Well, it's not really just big data. There is more involved. So, data science is working with data to achieve value. Value may be in a business, organisational sense, in a scientific sense. Data science is also what data scientists do. These may seem a bit flippant, but they are reasonable working definitions, and we'll look at what data science do in order to understand, in order to expand on this, make this sense of this. So, how did data science get started? That's another perspective to understand what it is that makes up a data science project. Well, hardware is cheap. Organisations can store a lot of their data cheaply. Processing is fast and scalable, so they can do a lot of computation with the data. A lot of stuff could be stored and manipulated that wasn't feasible earlier. There's also an awful lot of data being gathered, and this is what happens in an Internet Minute way back in 2011, an infographic published by Intel. Huge amount of consumer data is discovered, which corporations can make use of. Now, with all of these goings on, organisations, particularly businesses, had a constant push to make better informed decisions. And the best way to do that was data-driven decision making, to really use the latest information available. And so, let's create value from data. The survivors of the dot-com bubble, Google, Amazon, eBay, they really showed people how. And by the early 2000s, there was a bit of a realisation that this was happening. By the late 2000s, it was very clear that this was their approach. They were data-driven companies, and the technology and analysis was all there to make this happen. So what happens in a data science project? Let's get back to our original question. Well, there are a lot of different tasks that go on. The data scientist should be familiar with most of them, but they're not all labelled as data science. So some of those tasks are engineering, some of them are much more application driven, some of them are into business. Nevertheless, a data scientist has to have a reasonable comprehension of the broader life cycle. So let's look at the broader picture and the tasks. Someone starts the ball rolling. An idea is formed, some pictures given. Now, data comes in many forms. For instance, in the medical business, data is generated all the time. The effort may be in actually collecting it or making it available to researchers due to privacy constraints. Scientists have lots of instruments, as do the manufacturing world. Just huge amounts of data generated. So there are many sources over and above the internet, which we saw earlier. There's the traditional media. Internet of Things is really just kicking off the last few years. Corporations have their retail, wholesale data, social media. So there's also open data, which can include things like geographic, geospatial data that can be allied with proprietary data to create a valuable information. Now, all this data comes in different formats. It's passed around, and this is one of the real problems with working with data, is the huge variety of different standards and lack of standards in some cases, or poor adherence to standards. So one of the first tasks is to understand what data you have. Now often if that's corporate data, it'll be in a database. So you've got to figure out the schema, which parts of that data you can use. You also have to deal with management of the data or governance. And there are many aspects. There's this privacy, storage, archiving, the safety of your business, the ethics involved. All of these are important matters for corporations, governments alike. Now, once there's a clear idea of what to do, then the data engineers, they will make the back end work. So their job is to get the data to the data scientist. That can be done in many ways. And this, probably the biggest part of any project is actually inspecting and cleaning the data, maybe putting disparate data sources together. But this is usually a lot of programming, often done in a language like Python. In this case, I think we have R up here. Then the modelling has to be done. What sorts of analysis are we going to do? And this is where the data scientist may develop some models, working with the business people to understand what the problems are. Then the data scientist does their job, rolls up their sleeves, gets out their favourite software, and proceeds to build some models, perhaps in an iterative process. So we go from data to information to knowledge, and hopefully to understanding. Now, in order to help understand and to present our results to the business side, we often use visualizations, and visualization, the visualization world is huge. There are many different options. So we'll discuss what we've seen, we'll talk about the results, and then once people understand what's happening and we feel that we've evaluated things properly, it's time to put the results to work. This is called operationalization, and it is the point where the value becomes apparent and can be properly measured. So there are the parts of a data science project: collection, engineering, governance, wrangling, analysis, presentation, and operationalization. They come by many names, but the basic steps are often similar. Thank you.